they're so cute. I love baking. Can you tell? Today, I'm gonna show you how to make pretzel buns, which will make the best egg sandwiches you've ever had. I learned how to make pretzels when I was just a little kid in home ec class, and I've been making them ever since. Traditionally, pretzels are dipped in a lye solution, and that's what gives them that beautiful brown color and signature tang. But lye is tricky to work with at home, so we're gonna use a baking soda and brown sugar solution. It's gonna do just the same thing. In this chapter, I'm gonna show you how to make the dough, I'm gonna show you how to form and cut it, and bake it to a beautiful brown crisp. Okay, now we can make our dough. So I have my stand mixer set up. I'm going to put my all-purpose flour in there. And brown sugar. Our salt. And active dry yeast. Again, I'm just throwing it right into the mixture, making our lives a little easier. Let's see how she looks. Okay, now we'll switch to our dough hook. And I have my warm water. And that's gonna make the yeast feel nice and cozy so that it can add a lot of loft to our beautiful buns. This one might look a little dry at this point, but don't worry. Once you add the butter, it's all gonna come together and be perfect. So this is gonna go for about 6 or 7 minutes. You're looking for a dough that's come together in a cohesive mass and it's sort of smooth and pliable. It's not exactly gonna be supple just yet until we add the butter, but you'll see. You could make these sweet if you wanted to, a little bit of jam and butter. That would be nice. I prefer these buns savory. I think not only do they make an excellent egg sandwich, an excellent turkey sandwich too, or any kind of cheese sandwich, something like cheese and avocado would be really good on there. It's a very versatile bun. I think this is pretty good. I'm gonna stop because we're still gonna mix it when we add our butter. And now this is gonna be a little tricky to incorporate because the dough is so tight. So we'll put a little in at a time, and then sometimes I just go in there with my hand with the machine off and sort of knead it in. You can absolutely make these rolls without a hand mixer, but as I showed you, the dough is a little tougher, so it's just gonna take a little more elbow grease to get it to happen, but I've made them by hand. I promise it works. We're just taking the lazy route today. But you can see it's already starting to absorb the butter and get a little softer, a little more supple. All right, now I'm gonna add a little more butter. If we put it all in at once, the dough is just gonna sort of slide around and it's not gonna incorporate. They say it's easier to control the salt if you use unsalted butter, but between you and me, use whatever you have on hand. I think it's totally fine. Sometimes I only have salted butter and I use it perfectly fine. I think they're basically interchangeable. So you'll know it's ready when the butter basically clears the side of the bowl, it's all been incorporated, and you can't see it anymore. The dough will be soft and supple and smooth. And this dough, you can totally make in advance. You could make it the day before, you could make it up to 3 days before, and let it sit in your fridge and just take it out, shape it into balls, and finish the process. So you can cut it down to make it a little more manageable so that you can do it in the morning. Let's see how she looks. You know what? I'm gonna take it off and knead it by hand for a minute. But you can see nothing's left in the bowl. It's easy to pick up in one mass. See if I can just knead it out a little bit. Okay. So I like to take it out at the last minute and sort of knead it by hand because sometimes you can't tell where you're at when it's still in the bowl of the mixer. All right. I think that looks beautiful. You can see it's not perfectly smooth, but you can feel it. it's smoother than when we started. And after a little rest, it's just gonna be lovely. Okay, I have my buttered bowl. I like to always do that and then flip, just so you have some moisture on the top of your dough. A nice, neat ball. And then cover it. And this we will set in a warm place to double in size. And that should take about an hour, but it's better to watch the dough as opposed to the clock. She's doubled in size. Okay, so now we're gonna cut it into our rolls. We need a little bench flour. I'm also gonna get the Silpat ready. So this is a silicone baking mat that I put in a baking sheet. The reason I'm using this is because after we dip the dough into that brown sugar and baking soda mixture, it becomes really sticky. And if you were to bake it on a sheet of parchment, it would definitely stick, and that is the saddest thing in the world. So use a silicone baking mat to be sure that it will come off. If you don't have one of these, you can just oil the heck out of a baking pan and then they won't stick. Okay, here's my dough. Love that sound. The sound of risen dough, you can hear it. Now we're gonna shape this into our balls. We'll cut it into 8 equal pieces. I'm gonna eyeball this, but if you really wanna be precise, you could certainly use a scale. So we'll do half. And then quarters. I find that when we're rolling dough into balls, it's nice to have a little bit of friction, actually, to help you grip it and turn it around. So I'm gonna use a wooden board. So I make a little cage over my dough ball and then grip it, and then I sort of massage it with my fingers until it goes around and around and around and becomes this nice little tight ball. And that can go there to rest. And we'll just do that with the rest of our pieces. And if you want, you can sort of like make a ball in your hands first and then turn it around. Okay, so now we can cover these up and let them double. That's gonna take somewhere between half an hour, but really you wanna watch the dough instead of the clock, because there's a lot of factors that contribute to that. I have these beauties. They're perfectly risen and ready for our baking soda solution. So first, let's preheat our oven to 425 degrees so that it's ready for our buns. I have a pot of boiling water here. I have a couple inches of headspace just to make sure that when I add the baking soda and it bubbles, nothing bubbles over. So now this just goes into the pot. Do the brown sugar first. And this is gonna give the outside of the buns a little bit of sweetness. It's gonna contribute to the browning. And now our baking soda. See? We'll just let that subside for a sec. And now the baking soda is also really gonna contribute to the browning, and it's gonna give it that beautiful, tangy pretzel taste. Okay, so here are my rolls. I like to do it by putting them in a spider very carefully and then lowering them into the water. You're really trying not to knock out too much of the air in these nice risen balls. That'll be about 30 seconds total on these guys. Just a quick little dip. And now these can go right back onto our Silpat. They don't look any different yet, but when you put them in the oven, you can tell. You can already feel they're a little bit sticky, and that's why you really need that silicone baking mat. Okay, we're gonna cut little X's in all of our buns because that's gonna give it some room to grow in the oven. Now you're not trying to go all the way through, we're just trying to basically give the rolls a little space to puff. Like that. Make sure your knife is really sharp. Otherwise you're just gonna make a hole in your bread. Like that. And now, to finish it, you need pretzel salt or flaky salt. So now these can go in the oven for 18 to 22 minutes. They'll be puffed and deeply golden brown. While my buns are baking, I'm gonna scramble up some eggs. I like them extra buttery and extra cheesy. Not a little bit of cheese. Nice soft scramble. Look at these beauties. I know they're done because they're nice and golden brown, and I can feel that the edge is kind of crispy, but the inside is a little bit soft. They're gonna be perfect. You know, when they come out of that baking soda solution, they kind of look a little shriveled and a little sad, but then they go into the oven and they puff up and they look beautiful. Cut her open and let's see. Okay, look at that. You can see it's like nice and soft, but the top is nice and crisp. And I'm gonna make myself a little egg sandwich. This would be actually a great thing to set out for a nice brunch because you could sort of put these out and then put a whole array of beautiful toppings. How beautiful does that look? I can show you. This is the moment I've been waiting for. That is so delicious. And my favorite part is that when you take a bite, this delicious dark part lands on your tongue and you get that beautiful, tangy, very quintessential pretzel taste. And it is so good and they're soft and chewy. It really makes the best egg sandwich you'll ever have. In this chapter, we've learned how to make the dough for our pretzel buns. We've learned how to shape them, how to dip them in that baking soda solution, and how to bake them. I hope that you enjoy these at your next brunch.